Alright, welcome to lesson 2.2, least common multiple. So in the last lesson, we worked on finding the greatest common factor, so a number that can divide other numbers without getting a remainder. Now we're going to talk about finding the least common multiple, so your count by numbers, or what you get when you multiply a number. Before we were looking for the biggest, now we're looking for the smallest. Alright, so after this lesson, I will be able to find the least common multiple of two numbers that are less than or equal to 12. Right, so here we go. So we already went over what the least common multiple is. So we're actually going to start by talking about Ned, who's training for a biathlon. A biathlon is when there's two different events that you're in one race. In this case, his biathlon is a swim and a bike. So he is going to swim every 6th day. So swim every 6th day, and then he's going to bicycle every 8th day. Okay, so we want to know on what days will he both swim and bicycle. So we want to know on which days will he do both. So let's go through and figure out which days he's going to swim. So I'm going to do a blue highlighter for this. All right, so on every 6th day he swims. So get my highlighter here. Oh, sorry about that. Click the wrong thing. All right, so we have the 6th day, and then another 6 days would be 12, and another 6 days would be 18, and then 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60, 66, 72, 78, excuse me, 84, 90, 96. All right, so each of these days that I've highlighted are days that he will swim on every 6 days. Now you'll notice that these numbers that I wrote down, so 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60, and so on. These are all multiples of 6. Okay, so they're what you get when you count by 6s or when you multiply. So 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. They're all multiples of 6. So now we're going to do every 8th day on the bicycle. So I'm going to use yellow for the bicycle. Right, so every 8th day. So day 8, day 16, day 24, oh, looks like my highlighter doesn't want to work again. So day 24 should be highlighted, and then another 8 days would be day 32. And then another 8 days would be day 40. There we go, 24, 32, day 40, day 48, okay. And then day 56, day 64. Okay, and then another 8 days would be day 70. Why am I counting incorrect? 8 times. There we go. Sorry, 8 times 9. Yeah, 72. Ooh, math is tough today for me. And then 80, and day 88, and then day 96, and up to 100, so that's it. So now, every day that we've listed, or every day that we've highlighted, those are all multiples of 8. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80. Okay, again, all multiples. Oops, behind there. All right, so these are all multiples of 8. Now, anywhere that we've landed on both numbers, or we've landed on the same number, These are all what we call common multiples. So like 24 would be a common multiple. 72, 48. Where's the other one? 96. These are all common multiples of 6 and 8. So on those days, he would both swim and bike. So on day 24, he would swim and bike. On day 48, he would swim and bike. 72, 96. On each of those days, he would do both. Okay, so in this case, the common multiples are the days that he will do both activities. So when your multiples line up, it's like his days line up. So in this case, what does the LCM represent in this situation? So 24 is the LCM. Now if you look here, to go from 24 to 48, it's plus 24. 48 to 72, plus 24. And again, plus 24. So in this case, the LCM represents the number of days between, there we go. So the number of days between double days, we can say, or days when he will bike and swim. So what that means is every 24 days, he will bike and swim. So even though he's doing something every 6 and 8 days, every 24 days, he will do both. Right? So finding that, using that LCM helps us figure out a pattern for another situation. So the pattern for swimming is every 6 days. The pattern for bicycling is every 8 days. The pattern for both is every 24 days, the LCM of 6 and 8. So he can make a plan and know that every 24 days, he's going to have a really heavy workout day. Okay, so again, you can apply the LCM in a situation where, so like at the store, they're holding a promotion and every third customer receives a free keychain. Every fourth customer receives a free magnet. Okay, and then since every 3 and every 4, at some point in time, those numbers are going to line up. Okay, there's going to be an LCM of any two given numbers. So when those two numbers match up, that tells us that that person is lucky enough to get both. So in this case, when you list the multiples, we find that the least common multiple is 12. So then what that tells us is customer number 12 will be the first customer to get both the keychain and the magnet. And then every 12 customers, so not only does it tell us that number 12 will be first, but it also tells us every 12 customers will receive both. So even though the story problem didn't tell us that, we could use the LCM to find it. All right, so moving right along, we're going to go ahead and use two methods to find the LCM. We're going to list the multiples, and we're going to use the ladder method. Okay, with listing the multiples, again, just like with common factors, it's easy to miss or put down an incorrect multiple. So we have to be careful. So multiples of 4, 8, 16. Well, look at this. I've already skipped one. So if I don't catch that mistake, now all of a sudden I didn't list 12 as a multiple, and 12 could have been my least common multiple. I know in this case it's not, but it can happen. So this is why listing, yes, works when you're really good with your multiples, but the ladder method is going to be a little bit more efficient and usually is going to help you get the correct answer more often than a listing method would. All right, so 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. I usually start off by listing the first 10 multiples. Now, since this is the smaller one, now with the bigger one, I'm just going to list until I get a common multiple. So I have 9. Well, that's not common. 18. They don't have those in common. 27. They don't have that in common. 36. They do have 36 in common. Now, they have 36 in common because 9 times 4 is 36. Sometimes the least common multiple is going to be the two numbers times each other. So in this case, the LCM is 36. When you're using the ladder method, okay, It's the same idea as the common factor, except for you're only going to do 2 at a time. Okay, and you can use any number on the outside to divide. So in this case, I am just going to do 2. They're both even, so I know they can both be divided by 2, and I get 6 and 21. They both can be divided by 3. I get 2 and 7. Both of these only have 1 as a common factor. Now the difference here is I have to pull the last 2 out, and then I'm going to multiply all the numbers on the outside. So I'm multiplying the L. So when you're trying to find the LCM, you multiply the L. You multiply all those numbers. So I have 2 times 3 times 1 times 2 times 7. I know 2 times 3 is 6. I can take out the 1 because anything times 1 is itself. I know that 6 times 2 is 12, times 7 is 84. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 84 and 60 and I'm going to put them into a ladder. Excuse me. Right, and both of them can be divided by 2. I get 42 and 30. Both of those can be divided by 3. 3 goes into 4 once. It goes into 12 4 times. Here it's 10. These can both be divided by 2, and I get 7 and 5. Now I'm down to 1. So it makes sense that my LCM is going to be a big number because I'm working with larger numbers. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these numbers together to find my LCM. So the LCM of 12 and 42 was 84. Now I use that 84 to figure out the multiple or the least common multiple between 84 and 60. So I have 2 times 3 times 2 times, I'm going to take out the 1 times 7 times 5. So I have 6 times 2 times 7 times 5. 12 times 7 times 5. Well, look at that. I got back to 84. Okay? Makes sense that I would because that is one of the numbers I'm working with. Now I do 84 times 5. 4 times 5 gives me 20. Carry the 2. 8 times 5 is 40. Excuse me, plus 2 is 42. So the LCM of those 3 numbers is 420. Now I know we're working with larger numbers here, but I wanted you to understand that this will work with all numbers. You are only going to be working with numbers 1 through 12, okay? But know that sometimes that LCM might have to be a really large number when your numbers don't work out nicely, okay? Again, practice this ladder method. We talked about it when we did greatest common factor and found that it works really well. Make sure that you're writing it down. If it's confusing, go back, try it. Okay, go back and try it, and then see if you got it right. Okay, I'll actually, give you a couple numbers here. Why don't you try 2, 3, and 4? When you try 2, 3, and 4, you should get that 12 is your least common multiple. So try it out with the ladder method, and you should get an LCM of 12. Right, so here you only have 2 guided practice questions. You have a word problem, so don't forget to do your ride. And then what steps can you take to find the LCM of 2 numbers? I want you to explain what you would do with the listing method and how you would use the ladder method to do that as well. Again, we'll have time. We'll practice this in class, so don't stress out if it doesn't make complete sense right now. We will have that time to practice. And as always, if you have any questions, please be sure to email me or write them down so we can go over them in class.